All right. I think I'm here. As usual, I think I'm here. What are we, Tuesday? Happy Tuesday. A late afternoon stream, as it were. Let's see. Oh, before I get ahead of myself, you see before you a one-page thing that I threw on itch today. If you don't want to, I put it up for $1, but I described the entire thing in the devlog that I've been posting. And if you find a link to it, or you go to my itch page and you go to the product page, you'll see there's a devlog, and actually on the product page too, pretty much explains the whole thing. And there's an image there too if you want it. If you want to support the channel in some way, you can also throw down $1 or whatever for it. But this, you may look familiar. This was a wilderness die concept that we workshopped here on the channel about a month ago, maybe a little bit more. Now, this isn't the final version. It is maybe a final version. What I did was I kind of took the concepts that we were working on, and I had kind of a beta document already that I shared with patrons, which is another way to get stuff if you feel like becoming a patron. This is a simpler version, but I got it down to kind of a one-page piece, and I like it. I like it. I added a little bit of a player-facing element to it. Hey, Ian. Essentially, every time you spend a turn, so whatever your exploration turns are, 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever they are, everybody gets to roll a die. And everybody, all the players, they can take on rolls. I don't have rules in here for if you have multiple people in one roll. Figure take the best die result, something like that, right? That you can, okay, if you want to have 3 people as navigators, they can roll 3 dice. Whatever, you could figure it out. Figure it out however it feels good for you. I didn't put any specific rules. I assume that you can decide what to do, or if you want to give like, hey, get a +1 for every 2 people or the navigator, they can roll a d6 and they add 1 to it. Maybe having everybody roll and just picking the best results if they're the same rolls, I think maybe it's a little bit more fun for all the players as opposed to just a flat bonus and somebody picking. But you do your table. Ian says, looked it over earlier and liked it a lot. Oh, great. I appreciate it. I came up with 4 rolls, and I didn't originate these. I just picked a few, 4. So if you have a party of 5 or 6, they'll have extra people they can distribute amongst the rolls or do something else. Of course, if you have less, again, I don't have rules in here for if you have an NPC. Let's say you have a hireling that you put in one of those rolls. I might roll with disadvantage, just me personally, because I'm the GM that always thinks my point of view is if you want it done right, put a character on it. If you want it done like, okay, put an NPC on it. Of course, if you have someone with expertise, like we have a scout who's amazing and knows the land, you can figure it out. But I usually tend to, my point of view is I want the players to be in these spots and not relying on the NPCs to do all this stuff. In any case, 4 rolls, navigator, right? They're plotting your course, scouts, looking out for stuff, and particularly looking out for not trouble. That would be the lookout, but looking out for how the road ahead is. Are you going to run into anything geographically kind of difficulty? So the navigator they're plotting, all right, sun, stars, whatever the landmarks. Okay, we got to go north, northeast. Okay, beep, beep. The scout is kind of making sure that there's a path. Okay, we can kind of do this and kind of working. They're all working together, right? But they're sort of doing the practical part. The navigator's got this overarching, go this way. The scout is on that practical level. Quartermaster dealing with food and stuff. This was a little bit tricky. I was just trying to think of, because I don't like that, because I know I've seen this as a quartermaster. So like, hey, you get to mark off food, but it didn't seem to me to be all that much fun. But this one, I think I like it. Feel free to change it if it doesn't work for you. But they are doing with supply, but also I sort of make this connection between supply and morale. And so they're like, sometimes you're at home or you're somewhere and you're just hungry, you're getting hangry, something like that. Or the horses or the whatever animals need more supply of food, whatever they're doing. And the quartermaster essentially can avoid that issue of hirelings getting hangry, animals getting antsy. They kind of can, and you'll see, because basically all the all the benefits that the rolls give you counteract something that the GM might get. And then finally, the lookout, they're looking out for critters, enemy factions, or even good factions, things, creatures, and things that might be about. So you pick these rolls, and I assume you could change them up, whatever, you do you in your game. Any case, every time you spend a turn in the wilderness doing stuff in Hex, everybody rolls a die, including the GM. The GM rolls a die, and the players who have rolls roll dice. For the players, and you can mitigate this in different ways if you want to, you just want a 6. So, the navigator, if they roll a 6, or they get a positive effect. And I tried to give everyone kind of not everybody has a choice, but most of the rolls have some kind of choice they can do. I think the navigator might be the one that actually doesn't have a choice. But theirs is pretty important, so maybe that bounces out. I don't know. And then, but the referee has a 1 through 6 choice, though it's kind of like 2 choices are basically 33% each, and then the other ones are 16%. So if the navigator rolls a 6 and they're off course, they'll understand. They'll have seen, oh my gosh, we're off course, and they'll be able to correct it. And I just use faces of the hex, so if they could tick, tick, or if you're doing, however the faces of the hex. If they're going into one corner, they can turn and go up the top, right? Or depending on how your hexes are lined up, you get the idea. They can moderate that, and they can do that without taking any further actions. They can just do it. So that is a big benefit, because I will often have players have to spend a turn to sort of reorient themselves. And this is a way you can't reorient all the way. If you find out like, oh my gosh, we're 3, we thought we were going, north, and we're going southwest, something like that. You can't get all the way back. You can't all of a sudden just flip to north, but you can get one back. So, it's not a panacea. You can't just spin everybody around, but you could sort of try to get back on track. And of course, if you've only gone off track a little bit, then you can just take it back. The scout, they can identify features. If you recall, when one of these other working streams, I was trying to come up with names of features. It might be a bluff. It might be a morass. It might be a pit, a cavern, not a cavern really, a crevasse or something. Some kind of, generally speaking, an obstacle. And you could put more into that, but if you want to. I was thinking, and this would be for the more complete one, like, hey, maybe you roll for a random encounter when you get to one of these features, so that there's kind of a potential for a danger aspect as well as whatever it is. So in this case, if you're the scout and you're going to come up on a feature like, okay, there's a crevasse up ahead, you'll see it and you'll be able to choose to either go to it, because there might be something good in that crevasse. The thing you're looking for might be at the bottom of a crevasse. I don't know. Or you could avoid it. And again, without spending turns to go around. So you can kind of make that choice. Do you want to get to it? Maybe it's interesting, or do we want to get away from it? Quartermaster, as I said, if there's the potential for losing supply or losing morale, and the quartermaster can avoid that and kind of counteract loss of morale. And then the lookout, finally, looking for critters. And if there's a critter that's approaching, then they can choose, because you might need to move closer or want to, or you might want to try to get away. So you can either try to move closer or get further away from it. These all, what I've just read with these rolls and their ability, and their sort of, I guess, abilities or effects, counteract one of the effects that the referee could roll. So the referee, when they roll their 6-sided die, all the faces have different, essentially, at least potentially negative effects. Not necessarily, because an encounter doesn't have to be bad, but whatever it is, you have one result is it moves closer twice. So if you were using range of something where something's really far away and it moves to kind of only moderately far away, from far to, or say from distant and it moves in too far, that would be okay, it's getting closer. And then if you get the 2 times result, then you just do 2 of those. So it went from distant to far to near. So then maybe, that's that near in your game for wilderness, that could be you're into missile and magic range, whatever might be a big deal. But they're closing in. Hex feature is found. That's a feature. You're finding a feature, a crevasse, a hill, whatever it is, and they probably have to deal with it. I do put a note in here if you don't want to have them dealing with it, because sometimes there's not really much to do. Oh, you come up against a huge rock tour, and it's pretty much impossible to get your wagons or whatever you have up and around it. So they sometimes the party is the only real option for the party is to go around it. So then you just say you spend a turn, you basically elongate your travel by a turn to get around the thing. But of course, you could also role play out or offer both. Hey, if you could figure out how to get your stuff over this tour as opposed to going around, then you're all good to go. Otherwise, it costs you extra. Supplies or morale. Basically, you have a choice for either you consume supplies, and again, I don't put how many supplies, but I'm not putting those details in, but I would presume it would be basically you could count your number of hirelings or figure out some kind of number. If you have 4 hirelings, it probably costs you 4 supply, whatever, something like that. But so you can choose at that point to either give up that supply or morale goes down 1. Of course, if your quartermaster made the roll, you don't have to do that. So that's that counteract. And then finally, the other 2 are off course. Either you go off course by 1 face or 2 if you get the times 2. And I didn't put in the mechanic for if you were going, clockwise away or counterclockwise away, but you can figure out however you like. But either if you get off course, you just do that 1 time and you just move a tick over, or if you're off course times 2, you move it 2 times over. So, for example, if you moved it 2 times over, the navigator can only account back for 1. They can't get it all the way back. And the same thing, if your encounter draws near times 2, then the scout can try to avoid it, by kind of moving, back. But so there's some kind of, I think there's a pretty good balance there, but it's just meant to be loosey-goosey. The idea was, hey, you're in the Wilderness Adventures, give everybody something to roll. Everybody can feel good if they roll 6s. There's not a negative. I didn't put any negatives in there for the rolls. What the referee's rolling is probably going to tend to skew negative. So there's no negative side. So there's no reason for players not to roll dice. And if you want to have something like, they're a ranger, so I want them to be better scouts, then give them a bonus or let them roll with advantage or however you see fit. In any case, I threw this together. It's up on itch. I've linked to it in a few spots. There's a devlog that basically lays everything out like I just said. So if you don't want to spend $1, you can basically just copy down what it is. There's a picture. I did fix 2 typos. They're not major. They don't really change anything on this version that's not in the picture. But other than that, the picture has the same thing. It's just not high res if you want something to really print out, whereas the PDF is print ready, if you will. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly because I just did it and, why not? But what I really wanted to talk about is, whoops, I'm on the wrong one. All right, let's start here. So Vinimagus, or is it Vinmagus or Vinimagus? I think in my brain I say Vinimagus, but is it Vinmagus or Vinimagus? Let me just make sure I'm getting the person's name correctly. Oh, it is Vinimagus. I had it right. So Vinimagus, who is a patron and friend of the channel, is big into kind of Mystara stuff. And they sent me, I think they actually sent me twice, to be fair, some Mystara docs. But I finally was getting around to look at them, so I figured, why not look at them on stream? You'll notice this map back here. This is a I think it's a person named Robin has been putting together. There's a few people that have kind of I guess I would say maybe the fan community of Mystara have put together resources and maps, which we're going to look at one of the resources and maybe bounce around and look at what other ones. Something else they've done is made these maps, and these maps are kind of, they're just wild to me. This one I downloaded just kind of to put as a backdrop here. I think these are 1 or 0.9 mile hexes. This is, I think, one of Karamakos. Look at that. What is it? My gosh. What does it say? And these are pretty big files. This is several, I want to say maybe 200 megs, which is a pretty good sized image. So you can see here does it say how big the hexes are? I want to say it was 0.9, but it might not say. If it doesn't say, it probably does say, but there's just so much going on. So if you really want to dig into Mystara, I'd be curious. Maybe I'll have to find this Robin and see if I can talk to them, because I'd be curious on the 1 mile hex, what the use case is. I've really fallen in love. I've really started to appreciate the 3 mile hex because I like it from a settlement standpoint. It's fine for travel. I just have basically, if it's I like 3 hour watches, and so or exploration turns, and so you could move two grasslands hexes, 3 mile hexes in one turn, and then it just kind of, and then as the terrain gets more difficult, it kind of scales back from there. But I like it because I can think about, okay, one town, one, you're talking about a little bit less than 8 square miles, or let's just say we can just round things together, say 8 square miles for a 3 mile hex, which pretty much means that I don't know how big, Waterdeep is supposed to be, but 8 square miles is enough, I think, for pretty much any settlement I'm going to want to have in there. It will fit just fine. And it also, for me, that minimum size, which I've been dealing with in these other streams, we're looking at creating settlements when you're populating a hex map. And I find that the kind of the smallest estate, given the land it needs and everything, fits into basically that same kind of around 8 square miles, all told, between the land that's cultivated and the land that's left wild, and little water sources potentially, and a little bit of wood and all this stuff. It all fits pretty well for one little estate in that kind of 8 square miles. So that 3 mile hex to me is kind of really handy. But when you're talking 1 mile or less, if I read it correctly, that's 0.9 miles, then you're going to start to have things that are breaking out of these hexes in ways that I don't know that I super want to deal with. Because you could really potentially have things. Well, tower's probably not going to break out, but I don't know if that's a city. So, like you can have bigger towns that now have to take up multiple hexes, which isn't necessarily a problem. It's just a little bit less neat for me. It's the same reason why I kind of started to turn away from 6 mile hexes, because having multiple, I didn't want to have to track multiple settlements in one hex. Like, oh, you have the, because if you're using this, if you're, depending on your hex map style, if you're using something like this, your kind of worldographer style, sort of simple map, then putting multiple symbols in there, either you just have one symbol, or if you were going to put two in, it starts to get really muddy and use that. I think there's a lovely clarity in these very simple hex maps, and you kind of, that gets lost if I'm putting 4 different symbols in there, because there's 4 things. Because remember, that 6 mile hex is 30, almost 32 square miles, something like that. Anyhow, so, but there are people out there, this person Robin and others, who have been going around making these just crazy, incredible maps, super detail with all kinds of stuff. And there's more, which we're going to get to right now. I will send a link to. So what we're going to be looking at is at a website called Vault of Pandius, which is the official Mystara homepage, or maybe the unofficial official. I don't know. And I thought where we'd start was an article that Robin wrote about Overland movement. I'm just typing this to put in chat. If you want to, there we go. I think I can pin that, right? Yep. And I just pin that. So if you're in the chat and you feel like checking it out, and I'm just going to have a little bit of, what is this? Blood orange spindrift for the working. No, blood orange tangerine spindrift for the working man. Hey, Brian says, holy hexes. Yes, holy indeed. Now, this is kind of a no-frills website, as I'm sure you can tell. And one reason why I wanted to put something behind it is if you extend the page, you get these crazy text. The text just gets crazy long in a way that's not. There's not good for reading. There's kind of a optimal size of your columns depending on your fonts. I don't know it by heart, but I do feel it when the text starts to really drift. And if I open this page full screen, there's this massive kind of spaghetti strings of text. Okay. This is Overland Movement by Robin. And I'm just going to read in her voice. For my work in Threshold magazine, I adjusted the movement system in D&D BECMI, aka BECMI, a bit, as presented in the Rules Cyclopedia. Alan Palmer from the Threshold team did help me in this. Due to space limitations, we agreed to place this whole section here on my blog, which is also beneficial. Also, a beneficial bonus as it reignites my blog. Here is an expanded system for overland movement derived from the terrain movement tables on page 88 of the Rules Cyclopedia, which I don't have in front of me, unfortunately. and the quote-unquote trail and road conditions section of accessory TM1 Western Countries Trail Map to explain the characteristics of the different route types. The generic trail/road terrain category in the RC table is redefined as 6 classifications of paths taken from TM1, with the other terrain categories described as off-road, quote-unquote off-road. These classifications are described below using text from TM1 together with tables detailing movement rates, safe locations, military presence, traffic, and mishaps that might be encountered. Okay, so there's a lot here. I don't know. So, as I love these things because I think it's, I'm going to say offhand, 6 classifications of paths. I feel like it's probably more than I need, but it does make you think. And the nice thing with seeing this crunch in this way, which is, you see an article like this that's giving you a bunch of crunch. It's very easy to take that and kind of peel off the excess, right? It's not easy necessarily, but you find that core and you can kind of chip off the stuff you don't want. Whereas if it's, if you're coming from the RC where it's all sort of baked in, I feel like it's harder to remove that stuff, which is why I think I gravitate, especially now, towards those lighter, simpler systems, because I can always add stuff in, but I think it's easier to add in if I need to than to cut out necessarily. Anyway, we have characteristics of travel routes. So we're getting in this kind of nice long table with some notes. So we have off-road. And we don't. So I guess we have a designation of the kind of, what are they calling it, path, description, and then a width of the path. So off-road is in the wilderlands of southeast Karamakos. This classification covers the terrain types of clear grassland, forest, hills, mountains, and swamp from the Rules Cyclopedia where no visible trails exist. So essentially, you're right. So you're off-road. You are making your own trail, as Doc Brown might say. So that's off-road. So easy enough on that. Next classification is bad trails. These trails are barely visible, may branch off occasionally into dead ends, may have dangerous sections, cliffs, narrow passages, unstable terrain. There are rarely any bridges. These trails are often blocked by fallen trees, rock falls, and such like. That's an interesting word, such like. They give some examples, which I'm not going to use because they don't mean anything to me. So if they mean something to you, then grant. But, I don't find them particularly meaningful because I'm not that familiar with Mystara. And as far as width, it's wide enough for 1 to 2 horses abreast at best. Interesting enough, I wouldn't think there'd be a bridge for a bad trail unless it was some kind of natural phenomenon. But that's me. So next up from bad trails, we have poor trails. These are more distinct than bad trails. However, for wagons or other wheeled transportation, they should be treated as bad trails. Okay, I guess that would affect your speed because we're not giving speed numbers here, just kind of what they're like. So you degrade this from poor to bad if you're on a wagon. Let's see, the average width is enough for 2 horses abreast. Then we have a fair trails. These trails are more prominent than poor trails. There may be occasional bridges and safe river fords. Interesting that they talk about bridges for bad trails because I would just assume there are none. But fair, you get them. And then, let's see, wide enough for 4 horses abreast. Now we have good trails. These trails are the best category of unpaved road. There may be water sources along the route. And it's wide enough for 6 horses. So I think the other thing is, at least for me, is their definition of trail is different than mine because I would not think of trails. I actually was thinking about this because I did kind of scan this briefly before. So I was thinking, how would I want to classify it? Because it is interesting. I like the idea that you can have a classification that's meaningful. Like I like that. Like you can say something and you say, hey, this is a trail, right? You find a trail and it is a poor trail, and that it can have some a fictional heft to it, and it can also have some mechanical meaning potentially. But I don't think of having wagons and things on trails. But I was thinking maybe on a track. So I was thinking like have trail, track, road. Or then I was also thinking, well, maybe I would say as a road, whether it's paved or not, a road has kind of wagons. Like you can have wagons on roads, but you can't take wagons on trails or tracks. I don't know. I don't really have an answer for it. It's an interesting idea of how to find meaningful words, But I wouldn't think of a trail, no matter how good, I wouldn't think of having a six horse, some kind of procession with 6 horses abreast on a trail. But I'm also thinking of camping and hiking and those kinds of trails where the quality of the trail doesn't really have to do with the width of it. So it could be my thing also. I don't know if there are other usages. I guess I'd have to go to Etim online or some dictionaries and look up for trails. In any case, it's interesting the word choice. Then we have minor roads. These are basic paved roads constructed with packed earth, mixed with straw, stones, and cement, and covered with stone slabs or cobblestone. Some minor drainage is incorporated to allow rain to run away from the path. As a result of their construction, they have good movement rates, ignoring terrain modifiers. Direction signs are usually found at junctions. Safe spots such as water sources, caravansaries, and small hamlets are easily found and reached from the road. Bridges will be available to cross rivers. See, they're calling that a minor road, and I would think that's maybe just at the time of the Middle Ages, or when I'm thinking kind of early Middle Ages, I'm thinking that's kind of Roman road material. They're actually paved. It's not just kind of mud and compressed earth, but it's paving systems. I feel like that's fairly rare. Maybe I don't know. I'm not a historian. I don't know. That's just my idea. Let's see. Minor roads also are 6 horses wide. And then finally, major highways. These major paved routes are considered on a multi-layer foundation in the Thracian style. Covered with stone slabs of cobblestone, these roads are unaffected by rain and generally have the best movement rates, ignoring terrain modifiers. Drainage from the highway leads into the nearby fields or streams. Direction signs are usually found at junctions. Safe spots such as water sources, caravansaries, and small hamlets are easily found and reached from the road. Bridges will be available to cross rivers. So basically, pretty much the same as a minor road. Why do they call it minor road if they go to major highway? Just call it road and highway. I don't know. Or minor road, major road? I don't know. And let's see. So then the note here is the roads are generally 8 horses abreast in width or more, making movement in both directions easily, allowing travelers from both directions. I see. So you can have basically two-way traffic. Someone doesn't have to pull over to let somebody else go through. So pretty interesting. Obviously, these things do say something about their world building. And I was commenting about these kind of roads, but that's kind of in my conception. We're dealing Karamakos. We're not dealing with medieval France or the Frankish, the kingdom of the Franks, whatever. So if they have more paved roads and stuff, or you do in your game, then hey, that's grand. But I think even now, a lot of places, there's a mix of paved and unpaved roads. But I guess I don't know how. I think it'd be interesting to see, well, how many major highways are there? I don't know. So anyway, that's cool. So we have a note here. In autumn, a paved road may be locally covered in leaves, which does not influence mishap or movement rates, but makes the road blend in more with the adjacent terrain. A careless driver may travel off the road in such cases. This chance is equal to a mishap chance. So that's kind of interesting. So if it's in the fall and you've got leaf litter all over the ground, you may leave the road not knowing, which is kind of an interesting, kind of cool if you're not paying attention. I don't know how often that would come in or what percent you'd want to give it, but it's an interesting idea that seasonally the roads can become kind of hidden. So now we have safe locations, and we have each of these path types. So off road, no advisable water sources, no caravansaries, no taverns, or no safe camping sites, no bridges. I don't know. I guess, but you might just find them. I mean, obviously, I definitely on the bridges part of it, but couldn't you just find a water source? I mean, you're not going to find this. There's no road there, so there's not going to be caravansaries or taverns. I suppose by safe camping, I don't know if they mean by safe is that you camp there, you don't have to make any creature checks. So in that case, yeah, definitely. If you're camping off road somewhere, you're going to have to make at least I guess I would imagine. I don't remember Beck me how often they do wandering creature checks, but you're subject to getting interrupted during the night. Whereas maybe in the safe camping, you're not. I'm not sure if that's meaningful or exactly what they mean by that. Okay, for bad trails, they do have caravansaries, taverns, or safe camping sites close to trail, but there's no advisable water sources close to the trail. I would think that I would see this doesn't quite make sense to me. I know they say no advisable water sources. I'm not sure, but I think oftentimes trails, just by the nature of them, are going to kind of hit some water spots. I mean, they might not be convenient to wherever you happen to be, but then I wouldn't think of a bad trail as having amenities. So it's just interesting. Again, it just has to do with wrapping my brain around what they mean by some of these terms, because my visual of a bad trail is not one where you'll find a tavern hanging out beside it or even close by it. Poor trails, bridges, unsafe if any, very few water sources, some caravanseries, taverns, or safe camping sites might be available near trail. It wouldn't be bad, and maybe it's somewhere else, or maybe it's just not in the purview of this article to get some, like, well, when they say maybe, how maybe are they talking about? 1 in 6, 2 in 6, 3 in 6, 10% chance, 20% chance, 50% chance? I don't know. Fair trails, some water sources, minor caravanseries, taverns, and camping sites available near the trail. Good trail, bridges, common or easily fordable rivers, minor caravanseries, taverns, and camping sites commonly found on trail. Minor road, water sources, caravanseries, small hamlets are easily found in reach from the road. Bridges always available on paved roads. And then the major highway, you get water sources, caravanseries, small hamlets, basically the same, bridges. And then you also get directions and road signals. So just, I think one of the things that's cool, let me see if we can find, let me see, let's zoom out. Let's find ourselves a road. Oh, here we got it. I need to see the symbology. What is a road on this map? See, I knew there was a reason why I brought this map around. Okay, that's not it. Going the other way. Minor divide. No, where is our roads? Yeah, basically 1 mile per hex. Okay, so they got, no. Where are you, roads? All right, we've got, terrain, more terrain. Oh, here we go. Road. Ooh, there's underground roads. Okay, so minor roads. Where's the major road? All right, so we have road. Regular road is a solid black line. Minor road is a smaller solid black line, and trails are dots. So interesting, they don't call it a highway, but that the two documents don't really they go together, but it's just interesting. So I think the idea would be here that I was going to say, is that a minor road? No, that's a trail of some kind. It's really interesting because this, I would imagine, going from Fogview to wherever this place is here. Maybe it's a trail because it's not. I don't know what that symbol is. But I guess the idea here is here, and it's a 1 mile hex, so I feel like it's kind of hard even to, though you're in the woods. I don't know, but basically, I would imagine when you say that there's a hamlet. Where's somewhere there's a hamlet nearby? Well, they all show the trails. I guess something like this. That I would imagine that if you're on this, like, okay, maybe this is a good one. If you're here, like, you're getting here, even though this is not a case where the road swings by and somehow you're not getting here. Like, all these things are visible. Whereas if this were this trail, it might be maybe less clear. I'm not actually sure because they put all the roads. I was thinking that you might see. Basically, what I was thinking was you might see, say, like this hanging out over here without any connecting. But the idea is that since this is a major road and this is, let's say, a hamlet, that it's understood without us putting it that, there's a road, there's a connector here, without us having to write in these ... dots. But maybe that's not the case. Like I said, the documents don't go together. So different ways of doing things. Hey, Krister. Okay. That's that. All right. What is this? So this will be a typical poor trail. See this this looks like way better than a poor trail. That's funny. I would think this to me is the minor road. It's just so funny how different people, different things see it. My interpretation of this picture is that's a road. It's flat. I imagine maybe somewhat graded, It looks like there's a bridge or at least something. I'm guessing there's some kind of river going underneath here, or stream, and they've put something across it maybe. And we don't have wagon ruts, obviously, but I would imagine there would be wagon ruts kind of running along here. But this to me is a road, not a poor trail. I want to know now. It makes me want to know, what is a highway? What the heck is a typical fair trail? This trail is better than this trail. How does that work? Not that you can see it very much. Or are they talking about this? I don't know, but that does not compute. Anyhow, all right. So now we have patrols, military presence. Off-road, no patrols. Bad trails, rarely patrolled. Poor trails, once a week. Patrols, fair trails, once every other day. Sorry. We have some notes about banditry. If you're off-road completely, I can't imagine why would I mean, it's weird. Banditry and humanoid raids very likely, but you're like, I understand maybe running into humanoids or some type, but you're like moving through the woods. Who's moving? No one else is. You're off-road. I imagine the bandits are trying to look at the roads or the paths and not off paths. I mean, that's one of the advantages of going off-road. Maybe the only advantage really is the fact that you're making your own trail. So who else is going to be on this trail? You could stumble into somebody, but someone's not going to be on your trail unless they literally are following you, because there's no trail here. So it's weird to me. They'd be like, oh, if you're off-road, it's really likely you're going to get raided by bandits. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of that's the advantage. Anyhow, so poor trail. So fair trail, once every other day they're patrolled. Good trail, patrolled once or twice a day. Minor road, 1 or 2 patrols day and night. And then a major highway, 1 or 2 patrols day and night. And I think we get some different. I think I'm gonna have to. Whoops, no. And then I think very little banditry, as I'm guessing, or none. Let me just open this up a little bit. There we go. Let me open it up. Okay. Just want to make sure that everything's on the screen. All right, so now we get down to movement rates. There we go. So, all right, movement rates refer to the terrain effects on movement and the traveling rates by terrain tables on page 88 of Rules Cyclopedia, which I don't have. To simply calculate basic travel time as per Gazetteer 10 Darokin, there'll probably be some inside baseball on some of these Mystara supplements that I just have no idea about, and I don't have the Rules Cyclopedia internalized very well, so I don't have that on top of mind either. In any case, divide the movement speed by 5. This is the distance in a single terrain you can cross in 8 hours. So 90, it says 90 feet, 30 feet would then be 18 miles, and thus 1 mile is crossed in 1 turn plus 8 minutes, 18 minutes. Anything faster will increase mishap chance by 10%. So 18-minute miles, which is okay, but 1 turn plus 8 minutes. Like, why? This is a different approach. I just don't know why we just round it up to two turns. You're so close to 2 turns. What am I going to do with 2 leftover minutes? I mean, I'm sure there are games where you're tracking your things minute to minute, but just seems like just give me 2 turns. It's fine. No one's gonna. I don't think anyone's gonna argue over those. I mean, it's 2 minutes. What are we gonna? I mean, granted, maybe over a day of multiple turns, sure, those will add up to a turn, but it's not worth. To me, it's not worth tracking individual minutes, especially unless I'm tracking individual minutes for lots of stuff, and at least me, not gonna be able to do it. So just 2 turns. For each route type in column 1, the DM can see the movement rate in dry weather in column 2. When wet weather occurs as per column 3, that lasts for the period in column 4. The impact on the terrain, route width, patrol frequency, and movement rates is shown in column 5. It is left to the DM to decide how to reduce the movement rate for a character's PC traveling during the course of a rainstorm or snowfall. Well, I don't know. It's weird. Like, why not just give me some numbers if you're going to give me numbers? But they're not doing it. They're saying it's up to you, GM. Do it. And this is a good trail after bad weather. See, this to me would be a minor road after bad weather. Not a good trail, but that's me. All right, so now we get to the table part of this, which is movement rates and impacts of rain or snow. Right. First column's route types. Second column is movement rate and dry weather. And then how rain or snow conditions affect progress, duration of the impact, and then the impact of rain or snow on passage patrols, movement rate, and mishap chance. There's a lot going on here. Another thing that's, I guess, that's interesting and probably is just not my style in terms of granularity is they say things like patrols once a week, but what chance? Like what is that? What does that boil down to? If I was going to have a wandering creature check, am I going to? Because you're playing. I don't know. You're playing in Karamakos. You're moving around the map. You're going different trail qualities. I'm not keeping track of how many, like what the daily schedule. I suppose with all our digital tools, I could set up a Google Calendar and have things or something and say, okay, on these days, these hexes. I know it'd be super complicated. All these roads, like, and you don't even tell like where are they on the road. I would just rather have or at least what I would do is I would take those numbers and just try to translate it. And roughly, I wouldn't care too much into just some kind of percent chance or have it fit into your wandering creature table so that you can have whatever you have. Or if you maybe want to have something separate, that way you can get those fun events when the patrol shows up, when the monsters show up. Have a roll of the dice and just start with really low percentages for the really poor trails, and then you could modify it by these conditions instead of saying twice per week, because at any given moment, what does that twice per week mean? And where are we starting from? How does that work? I mean, they're probably looking at, there's probably other mechanics that are coming into play, but that's one of the areas where I'd probably like, let's just simplify it down. We could say that in general, they're out once per week, but the patrol could also be out doing business, taking care of something else, doing something. So there's always a chance you're going to run into a patrol when they're not actually on their literal patrol, but that they're, doing some other business. So I would just say, let's just say, hey, make it if it's a really terrible whatever, just make it a 2d6 and it's got to be a roll 12 and the patrol shows up, right? And that's low enough chances that it might only occur once a month in a bunch of rolls. It's fine. You know what I mean? As opposed to trying to figure out their work calendar. Brian says consult column A and B, but not C, and add 2 minutes. Yeah, something like that. All right, so off-road, movement rain, dry weather they're all going to be normal. Oh no, I see. So movement rates in dry weather, you start to get bonuses to your movement if you're on fair trails or better, up to major highways, which you increase your movement rate by 50%. In terms of rain and snow conditions, like how much start to affect it. If you're off-road, any rain or snow is going to affect things. Bad trails, it's heavy. And then, I guess all the trails from bad all the way to good, if it's heavy, then it's affecting it. Minor roads and highway, it's snow only. So rain doesn't affect it, but snow does. And then the impact, 3 days. See, it's really good specificity, but I think what I'll do is I might have to just take this kind of doc and see how I can basically edit it down for my usage, because I don't want to do these calculations. So I'm going to be checking the weather and I have to figure out rain, when it rained, so on and so forth, or when it snowed. I mean, I suppose if I'm running weather events, I could, but that 3 days after, I don't know. That's a lot of. I feel like that's a lot of checks, more checks than I probably want to do. So anyway, off road for 3 days, bad trails. Oh, so hold on a minute. 3 days after light rain, 1d4 plus 1. Okay, so essentially it depends on the weather. It's either 3 days at the minimum, up to 3 weeks on the maximum. Bad trails. It's weird that they kind of change. So on off-road, they tell you how long things are bad for, but then you get to bad trails, it tells you how many days of clear weather you need until conditions normalize, which again, I don't want to. I mean, if I'm really super detailed and I'm keeping all the daily weather, and since we could be moving through different parts that don't share the same weather necessarily. But anyways, you need 7 days clear weather, then 6, then 4, then 3, then 1. And then in terms of the other impacts of rain and snow, basically off-road, it becomes mud. Same thing for trails. And then, but to a lesser extent, obviously, if you get a foot or more of snow, you lose your road benefits, and you reduce the width and patrol frequency. And then major highways is kind of the same. So there you go. One of these has an asterisk, but I don't know what it is. And you can, of course, the DM may adjust. A typical minor road. See this, how is this a minor road? Is it because it's paved? Ooh. I don't know. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know how that's a minor road, and then this is a trail, and this is a poor trail. I got to see what they see, because I'm not getting that. Now I'm getting this as a highway, assuming this is a highway. There you go. That makes sense. We're in sync on the highway. Some of the other ones I'm not totally sure. Okay, so now we're on to. Oh wait, there's a paragraph here on fair or good trails for the first 2 weeks after winter in colder regions, or after serious downpours. Expect to find roadworks in various locations for maintenance. These will slow traffic to 80% normal movement rate. For minor roads, such roadworks will reduce normal movement rate to 100%, while on major highways, the normal movement rate will reduce to 120%. If maintenance is not carried out, a road's benefits drop to one step lower for 10 years. Jeez. And the trail's benefits will do so after 2 years. A DM may decide that what is currently a trail, aka an unpaved road, was previously functioning paved road, like the Haven Trail most probably has been. All right. We need a mudslide simulator, says Brian. Yeah, maybe. So I like the idea of the roadworks, but again, I don't want to track all this stuff. Who is tracking all this? Are people really tracking the roads that have not been repaired, that didn't undergo roadworks? I just feel like that's just kind of a hazard, is that you get there and they're working on the road. I mean, it's cool that you can have these dynamics of talk about the world feeling alive, where something was a really popular road, a very popular road, and then something happens and it doesn't get maintained, like the Roman roads or something, and they kind of fall into ruin and degrade. That's very cool, but I don't know if I want to track it on that kind of granular level, as opposed to just having it as something maybe common sense of, oh, look at that broken branch, used to be populous and now it's not, and so whatever this was, if it was, got degraded, kind of thing. Roadworks. Where bad weather or general deterioration has damaged routes, the authorities will send repair crews to make good the trails or roads. Sections under repair will be of varying length dependent on terrain and the amount of damage caused. Consequently, a stretch of route may be subjected to multiple roadwork delays as the repair crews move from one area of damage to the next. Repair crews are limited in number and usually composed of workers local to the site. If the crews are sent by state authorities, the crews will live in wagons or tents near the works. If no local boarding is available, the state managed crews will sometime be of indentured laborers on Thracian roads. Such crews may also include slaves. Brian says, is this setting like very civilized repair crews, authorities? It's Mystara, and to be honest, I'm not a great expert on Mystara. But yeah, I think it tends to be. It's definitely leaning as to more organized doing things than I am. Than the worlds that I usually gravitate towards. I don't know if I'd say it's like the Forgotten Realms level, but yes, it's definitely more organized than that. Repair materials mostly reused from the damaged road or is brought in from elsewhere. All these factors mean that in the 2 weeks or so after winter, a traveler can encounter a variety of road conditions. Normal repair, damaged, or under repair. As a result, smooth passage cannot be guaranteed. I mean, the nice thing is with these things that they're giving us is they are things that you can have in there in terms of not just domain stuff, but they definitely are domain elements. If your party, if your character, your players and their characters are on that domain level, whatever level they are as characters, but they're dabbling in domain stuff, then these are domain responsibilities that they have. And it's going to be meaningful because if from a player perspective, if your particular domain, your manor and your village or town, or what, if you have one, right, if you cannot provide good roads to get goods and services to you, that is going to degrade your income. So those are great things to think about in those money sinks of, oh, what do we do with all this money? Well, we got to send out repair teams, and it seems like it could get kind of pricey if you've got repair crews that have to be on site. Who knows how long it takes? Blah blah blah. In terms of just, well, we're wandering around the countryside because we're low or mid-level, or we're just not into domains. I think this is great as just something you see on the road. Like you're traveling on the road and suddenly you get the obstacle. What is the obstacle? The road is being worked upon and you have to go around, which might not be a problem if you're on foot or even if you're on horse. But if you have your wagons, and this is something I think would really happen, I remember reading in kind of medieval times, is that roads would just become muddy morasses and people would get stuck and have to sit around and wait. And you might have to wait for a bunch of people to come just because you need the manpower to try to get your wagon through the foot deep muck to get to that. It was a real problem if you got bogged down, literally bogged down on these roads. So in that case, it makes a great potential obstacle or opportunity when you're traveling. But I don't know that I'd want to, I would just maybe leave it at that level unless we're on the domain side and then have it be a thing. Though if you wanted to add it into, let's say you wanted to have some regional events that come up or things because you wanted to have towns feel dynamic and these different domains that are not player run feel like they've got things going on. Having something like, oh my gosh, there's been horrible rainstorms and now the roads are all gunked up and now this town needs money to get the people to do the repairs. So how do they do that? Maybe they keel haul some people. Maybe they try to get some adventurers to get something, right? You can those can be opportunities for adventure in some way. Oh, we need money. I think there's money. We know where there's a spot where we think there's money, but we don't have the manpower to go in and get it. So, hey, you adventurers, you go in and we'll split it 50-50 and then we can repair our roads and you get some stuff, right? There's opportunities there, right? I don't know if I'd want to probably follow this just in terms of managing all these roads, especially if you're running something anywhere near this side where there's just look at this thing. I'm going to be keeping track of all this stuff for this huge area. I mean, granted, I would assume that you're only in one particular area, but remember, these are also 1 mile hexes. So it's not like you can't get around a fair amount of this. Maybe not as huge as it appears. Does it say what the total, do we get a number of what the total? I'm sure it's still a pretty darn big area, even at 1 mile. I know we don't have a count. I don't think we have a count. But you can cruise. I mean, on these roads, I don't know. If I was doing, let's see, if you're on say 12 hours, that's 4 marches. You can do 2 per 4, so you can do 8 of those, and then let's say we add another 1 or 2 for being on a good road. You're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh wait, let me hold on. Sorry, I should be like, I guess I'll just kind of hear like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, you can get a pretty good, that's just 1 day of travel. So I don't know. Oh, we got some comments here. Brian says this is really wildly granular. It could be useful for national park employees. I mean, who's to say that that's not who came up with it or the national park employees? Whoops, who's to say? Brian says, I cast Tar Patch and gain renown. Yeah, exactly. Brian says, Wagon Train is an entire series about travel and barely goes deeper than X route is closed, we got to go the other way, or road is mud, surprise bandit attack. Yep. Totally. But I think it could come in handy. What I don't know is I don't have any context. You have this documents thrown out there. I have no context on how much of this are they using. Are they picking and choosing which ones these are using? Are they using only when they feel it's important? Or are they doing this all the time? I have no idea. So it's just kind of something we just have to look at and say, well, maybe they're doing this much. Maybe they're not. Okay, so now we have mishap chances. They're using percentage or percentile. So off-road, 25% per mile. And then they also have 2 different types of minor and major. And it's you roll, you'd have to roll 1 in 4, and then you'd roll another percentile, or because it's always 25%. So it's basically 1 in 4. It's just the amount of times you roll. Off-road, you're rolling it every mile. So every hex, essentially, you're rolling it. On a bad trail, you're rolling it every 2 hexes. Poor trail, every 4, 8, 16, 24, 32. Which means that you're probably not getting a mishap. I mean, I guess depending on, I don't know if I don't remember what the travel rates were after. That's probably once a day, maybe not even. I mean, for me, it's like once every 2 days. And then your chances of minor versus major mishaps. So on to mishaps. Minor mishaps are lost horseshoe, hurt ankle of draft animal or guard, damaged wheel, toppled load, snapped reins, snapped load ropes, etc. Minor mishaps can be resolved in a single hour by craft or simple treatments, including magic. Most weapons have the spare parts or repair items needed for 20 such happenings on each individual trip. These can be refilled at any settlement for 12 to 18 silver pieces per happening used. That's nice. I like that. Hey, look, you've had these different happenings. We can kind of just ballpark it and say 12 to 18. Basically 2 to, or I guess not 2 to 3. It's like 2d6 plus 6 to, or 1d6 plus 6 to, no. Yeah, 2d, or, yeah, no. How do you get 12 to 18? 3d6 gives you 3 to 18. 12 to 18. I guess you just do 11 plus 1d6. I guess that's what it would be. Major mishaps might happen only if traveling outside the roads or trails, or if roads have been severely damaged, earthquakes, floods, fallen trees, etc., to wagons and loaded animals. Depending on the area, DMs use logic, please. This is 25% every 16 miles on flat terrain, 25% every 4 miles in forest. Basically just giving us the numbers from the table. Major mishaps are broken axle, broken wheel, wounded animal or any walker, lost load or wagon parts. Most major mishaps can be resolved only if the necessary equipment, spare axle, spare wheel, etc., or has the magical means to cure broken ankles, wounded animals, etc. Major mishaps need a minimum of 1 plus, that's just my eyes, 1 plus 1d4 hours to resolve non-magically when the tools, skills, and equipment are available. It might be possible that a wagon becomes stuck due to a broken wheel or axle when these are unavailable. For prices of these, and there's a link to another article, or I guess a PDF. Ooh, what can be bought? That'll be a good one. Page 55 of what can be bought. Magic correctly used might be able to resolve any of these issues, but this depends on the DM, the circumstances, and if the PCs and hence players are clever enough to use magic as such. The DM might reward these characters with total spell levels. Okay, well, they're given some details that I need. And we're at the end. Ba-dum-bum-bum, with a typical example of a major mishap, a broken axle. That's a nice find. Okay. And we do get a link to some Roman clip art, but I'm not particularly interested in that right now. So this is really cool. Way more detailed than I would be looking for, but I think there's some gold in there. I mean, there's certainly a bunch of it if you want to get super detailed, but I think even paring it down and saying, let's look at I feel like I'll have to look at this again and maybe see if I can take this and, inserting some of my own ideas and just kind of pairing it. All right, let's just take things down to where it's not quite so. We can get a lot of we can get rid of the crunch, but maybe keep some of the how much can we pair off, but still keeping most of the juice of what we're getting here, because there's some neat stuff here. We only have a few minutes left before I have to go, but I just thought we could look at. So this is Vaults of Pandius website. There's the atlas where you can grab all these maps. I think I went here to maps, and there's just a bunch. I mean, if you want maps for Mystara, I mean, just look at this amount of maps. I went through and grabbed one of Robin's maps. I don't know where it is on this list. Did I just see it? Purple pop in? No, I didn't see it. And this website is, it's very low, low tech. So, it's just a whole bunch of stuff listed. But I mean, Download all of them. Get your need one of those mass link downloaders and just grab all the links. Grab all the links and we got Blackmore. Oh, we got an ancient Nithia 8-mile hexes. And these obviously go, that's 2015. I think there's some that are older, 2014. Some of these things are pretty old, but they're still useful, 2012. Folks have been doing this for a long, and obviously way before that, 2011. Ooh, what's this? Map of Castellan Keep by Lucky from Half Blogger. Half Blogger? All right. I'm out of curiosity. Is Half Blogger still there? Oh no. Why, Half Blogger? Why? Well, let's just see. Is there anything left of Half Blogger? Womp womp. But see, that's why these repositories are so important. Because stuff don't make it. All right. So that's map. So if you want to go, so you can go to pandius.com. If you can follow that link that I pinned, you can go start there. Let's see. What other resources? Do we have any other resources real quick? So the Mystara setting. I looked at these a while ago on the main channel. We have some updated gaming resources. What's in the gaming resources? Products. Oh, I see. No, I mean, they're not, I don't think it's for sale. It's just you can download. That's fine, but I'm not interested in that. Well, hold on a minute. Okay, mapping, mappers of Mystara, gaming resources, a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. Oh, excuse me. All right. Player characters, creatures and conversions, immortals and fate. I thought there was one I saw that caught my eye as I looked through this quickly. I didn't link to it. Let's see. So there was. See if I can find it really quick. Oh, it wasn't Immortals and Fate. Spells, no. NPCs, no. Mystaracon. Oh, but only 2021. Was there only one Mystaracon? Say it ain't so. Was it rules? So we have rules, general rules, errata. I think this might have been where I saw it. Mystara campaign rules, some game mechanic rules, combat and warfare rules, including stuff like aerial combat. What did I see that I thought was cool? I mean, it's all cool, but there was something that caught my eye, and now I don't know where it is. Was it game mechanics? Oh, yeah. So there's this one, Shrines, Mark Sandon. These are new. Shrines is a game mechanic. Did I see this posted somewhere? Well, this is really quick. Shrines is a game mechanic. A quick idea is to allow a roadside shrine of the appropriate faith to grant once per day the benefit of a long rest to a cleric or paladin after taking a short rest. So this is kind of 5e focused, but whatever. In Yalaruam, cleric of Al-Kalim is probably going to have an advantage, but not so in Theatis. Norse clerics of the northern reaches might have wooden idols of Thor and Odin. Druids might find menhirs and dolmens on the Isle of Dawn. These shrines might also require some maintenance and faith, meaning it gives itinerant priests and pilgrims a purpose to provide the shrines with regular upkeep of prayers and offerings, and it suddenly provides bandits with a target and players with potential quests to stop them. I like that. I think that's cool. I don't know if I do the short rest, long rest thing, but I think the finding shrines and doing things with shrines is good. I think that might have been what I was looking for, because it was definitely something to do with shrines. But that I don't know if I feel like I saw a different article name. Shrines and Holy War, reference velocities. I mean, look, there's a ton. I probably just have to do more of these where I can just go and read through them. That's because there's just, look at how much there is. I mean, obviously some of these are on different blogs, but like I said, I'm glad that they're here as a repository, because a lot of these individual places may be gone, especially the ones that are, old. Look at this one. Rules for mass aerial combat from the Mystara mailing list, posted 14 April, my birthday, 1998. Nice. Very nice. So yeah, a ton here. A ton here. Brian says they let anybody make an offering. Oh, I would, but I would definitely see having. I think it being of a religious order, if you have them in your game, I gives you some extra juice if it matches up. I'd probably just go with alignment. That's one nice thing with alignment. Whether you're using the 9-pointed or chaos law, whatever, is you can use that as like, oh, if you're a cleric that alignment or whatever matches up with this shrine, you get a little extra juice. I mean, that's part of it. To me, it's like part of what being a cleric is all about. But I could see making, I would definitely give anybody something special. I'm not sure what I want it to be. Being rested is one. Maybe that's a nice thing where you can have a roll, right? Because you only have presumably a fairly limited pantheon, so just make that a D6 table of if you make an offering, what you should offer, and then roll on this table to see what kind of thing you get, if any. Maybe something small on the one hand, and then maybe something better. I don't know. It could be some fun things to be had. Well, all right, folks, the hour just flew by. Thanks for hanging out. I'll have to dig into this more because there is a ton of stuff here. I really like the roads and trails thing, this Overland movement, but I think that could be a nice little next maybe project, is to use some of my other stuff, fold some of this into it, and then maybe come up with something that's a little bit leaner, at least it's not as crunchy, but still gets us some of the benefits of being able, because I really do like the idea of categorizing the quality of the path that you're on and how that might have different upsides and downsides, because that's choices, right? It's a choice whether, for example, maybe I don't know, you're going somewhere. Do you go off road and come down here, or do you take the highway or whatever, the main road, and go longer out of your way? This one's going to be faster, but it's a longer distance, so maybe it ends up being faster per hex or whatever, but slower overall. This one quicker, but more fraught, depending on where you're going. But then, if you do, like, you're on here going, let's say you're trying to get from, what is this? Flaview? Fogview? I was going to say Fangview. If you're going to get from Fogview to the Tavern Longers and the Fog. I mean, granted, this is just a day, but let's say you're in a Fellowship of the Ring situation. Riders are on the road looking for you. You could try to make a run of it on this road to get to the tavern, and it's going to be fast, but you're going to be easily seen. They're going to be even faster, so on and so forth, because maybe you're on horses, you're on foot, whatever it is. Or you can take this way, coming down here in a broken branch, then cutting over to Loggersville, and then cutting across to Limburg and over. Much longer, more fraught, but much less chance you're going to be discovered, unless spies give you away, that kind of thing. I like all those choices. So I think baking that in where you can just say in your material, okay, this is a poor trail, this is a fine road kind of thing. I think it's very useful, because then you just all of a sudden in your mind, like, okay, I know what that means when I'm telling it to the players. That's meaningful to me in terms of the kind of fictional stuff. And then also, if the mechanics are pretty easy, then it's like, oh, okay, I know where I am on that aspect. And you can, I like those categories of stuff. I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm doing with the kind of adding attributes to wilderness stuff is to try to make categories to make it easy to work with stuff, but having some mechanics. So I think there's some stuff to be done there, or it can be done. But whether I can do it and not get too mired in mechanics and getting too granular for my tastes anyway, remains to be seen. But it might be a fun project. All right, folks, that's all I've got. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.